We're going to start this evening with Dr. Schwimmer, who, if you don't know, is an infectious disease physician, and he's out in Tacoma, Washington right now, but through the miracle of Zoom, he is with us, and he's going to share some information, very helpful information that came out from the CDC about in mid-May, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show, and a lot of you heard this information or maybe saw it on TV. It's been shared quite a bit, but this is a nice graphic that shows the CDC's latest rulings, and Dr. Schwimmer will kind of interpret it for us. So just let me know, Steve, when you want me to
All
scroll,
right.
and I will try to make this bigger.
Okay. So the CDC got enough data about the epidemiology of vaccinated people, both in the U.S. and elsewhere in the world, including in Israel, where there's been a lot of very helpful information because with their high vaccination rates, they've been able to answer questions quicker than in other situations. So this is a summary based, it's split very simply, unvaccinated people, fully vaccinated people. And these are activities that it is safe with a high degree of confidence for people who have been fully vaccinated to do. And we'll just go down it. Walk, run, wheelchair, roller, bike outdoors, members of your household. Okay. Attend small outdoor gathering with fully vaccinated family and friends. Attend a small outdoor gathering with fully vaccinated, unvaccinated people, and unvaccinated people should wear a mask. Dine at an outdoor restaurant with friends from multiple households, less safe. Attend a crowded outdoor event like a live performance parade or sports event, least safe. I'm really being torn because I'm a baseball fan, as are my family, and they're opening up the stadiums to full capacity. It's either now or soon. I'm not sure I want it's proper to go. We're all vaccinated, but still. It is saying that if you're vaccinated, it's safest, but there's, so yeah, from that point of view, but they recommend wearing a mask in those events. Those are mass events. Okay, indoor activities, just scroll down a little bit more. Visit a barber or hair salon. There was an early study of a couple of hairdressers who had active COVID and were wearing masks while doing their job, and there was no transmission. But still, you should, if you're vaccinated, you should wear a mask. Go to an uncrowded indoor shopping center or museum, wear a mask. Ride public transport with limited occupancy, wear a mask. Attend a small indoor in gathering of fully vaccinated, unvaccinated people from multiple households, wear a mask. That's something that where our committee guidance might be at variance. Go to an indoor movie theater. If you're not vaccinated, that's a problem. Full capacity worship service. They're saying full capacity worship service, wear a mask. Okay, let's keep going down. They're saying it's not safe even wearing a mask for people who are unvaccinated. Sing in an an indoor chorus, wear a mask. Eat in an indoor restaurant or bar, wear a mask. Participate in a indoor high intensity exercise class, wear a mask. Okay, that's it. Our committee has been going over this and looking at the various use cases. There is that attachment that on the Temple Bulletin link. It opens up with what the committee is recommending.
And
And
we're going to show that now, and others are going to talk about it. So, Steve, did you want
sounds like a plan. I think it's great.
anything more about this? And there'll be time for Q&A afterward. But
Okay. You can get the, this can, you can find this on the CDC website, but it's a nice summary and the data behind it is good. I know, the CDC does spends a lot of time and effort in how they present this information, and to keep it, with, to be able to communicate but still be as scientifically valid as possible. So that's where things are. That is the state of the art at this point.
thank you, Steve. And people may have more questions for you later. I am putting that link in the chat. So if anyone wants to go to it, it'll be here in the chat, and you can cut and paste it and put it in your own browser if you want to. So, oops. So there you go. Should be there. So if you open up your chat, you should see that link to the CDC graphic that Steve just showed. Now I'm going to show you the report of the COVID committee that Steve just mentioned, and a couple of our committee members are going to go through it with you. Let me just make sure I get the right document here. I want to show you something else on my computer. That is not something I want to show you. Okay, wait. I know it's here. Here it is. Okay. And so this is what was put up on the Temple website today. It was linked to your in the e-news today. And I believe we're going to start with Platina doing the first part of this. Am I right? Dr. Gerstensen, you have to unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Yes, that is correct. So just briefly, that first paragraph, obviously based on the improving vaccination rates and declining infection rate, we have met and decided that we can open in somewhat of a limited fashion, although that limited fashion did increase quite a bit once the CDC said that vaccinated people can go out and participate in more activities. Can you go down, please? So we have hired a part-time building manager, and this is the former caretaker, and the building manager's presence is why one of the reasons that we are able to have the following events. We are requiring masks for unvaccinated and immunocompromised individuals at all events described below. But we are not asking for anyone to tell us if they are vaccinated. We are going on the honor system. These activities will be inside or outside, small group or large. And in all of these events, vaccinated individuals do not need to wear masks. We encourage all who are eligible and able to receive the vaccine to do so as soon as possible. And as I said, proof of vaccination will not be required. Reservations will be needed for all services and large group events, so that we will have a record of who was present should contact tracing be necessary. And the reservation process will be announced soon in terms of details. Rabbi Feingold has already returned to her office and has been and will continue to hold one-on-one or small group meetings with students or families in a space that allows for social distancing. We are requesting that all activities for now remain in the setting of social distancing. Summer services will be starting on June 18th. They will be held in the backyard, weather permitting, on Fridays at 5:45. All in-person services will also be broadcast online, as they have been for those still attending remotely. As I said, there will be a sign-up reservation procedure for all those attending. Only those who've reserved in advance may attend. And the reservation process, again, will be clarified in coming weeks via an email. Attendance records, again, will be kept. Services on June 18th, June 25th, and July 2nd will be limited to 20 people. These will be assigned seating in pods with masks, again, for the unvaccinated and immunocompromised only. Vaccinated individuals do not need to wear masks. And again, this will be based on a social distancing plan in the outdoor sanctuary. That social distancing, until further notice, will be kept in place all summer. And ideally, the attendance cap will grow from 20 as the summer progresses and as we see how things go. Use of the restrooms inside will be limited to one person at a time, wearing a mask with sanitizer use on entering and leaving the building. Rabbi Feingold will lead services with a mask and will sing from an appropriate distance. Congregants may sing quietly to themselves. The Torah study group has decided to continue on Zoom as long as the kitchen is under construction and Founders Hall is not available. Shabbat morning services will therefore be online until further notice. In case of inclement weather, services can move into the sanctuary. Chairs will be cordoned off to facilitate the required seating in socially distant pods, and singing limitations will be as described above.
Okay, thank you. And again, we'll have time for Q&A about all of these things, but we're going to go on with the document, and Todd Lettvin is going to share the rest of it. Todd, unmute yourself.
Thank you, and I appreciate the large print. Yeah, so other summer programming, you know, we're challenged by school get-togethers, and so one-on-one summer Hebrew for youth will be offered as an option. We're going to still do the social distancing between tutors and the teacher, or tutorees and the teacher. Masks will be required unless the student and the teacher are vaccinated. Mahjong and other groups of vaccinated adults can meet in the building. Things like meetings, classes, volunteer work can happen. If there's any doubt about whether a person or a potential gathering is appropriate, it should be cleared with the committee first. As far as school goes in the fall, we hope to be back in person. Our plan is to be back in person, but you know, obviously it's a few months away and things can change. We are hoping to be back in person, but if not, we'll obviously pivot and we'll make it work somehow. This year we were back to Zoom 100% of the time. I don't know that we could do a combination of Zoom and in person. We're still figuring out if that's a possibility for us. But at this point, our plan is to hopefully be back in the building in the fall for classes. High holidays, we're planning to do high holidays in person with an attendance cap, social distancing, and a reservation process, just like the rest of the services that we're doing. Hopefully everybody will be able to attend in person if they want to. And Orit Perlman will be, I can't see the last word.
With us.
With us, yes. Orit will be with us. Shabbat services and life cycle events, including B'nai Mitzvah, will be able to be in person with an attendance cap and social distancing. Holding adult education programs, meetings, and other events is realistic, but will be further discussed at another time. There will be no food, no onegs, no meals or snacks served in the building. That seems to be a way for the transmission of the virus to spread easily. So we've decided that that is not going to be possible until we get a little further along. I'll let you read that paragraph.
Oh, me? Okay. So, you know, the bottom line here is that for any of these things that we've listed above that we're going to try to make possible in person to continue on an ongoing basis, we'll need everybody's compliance with these procedures and rules, because our Jewish values teach us that pikuach nefesh, the saving of a life, the preservation of health, is the very highest value. And we want, you know, life to get back to something approaching normal. We all want that. So we ask for everyone's cooperation, even if your personal preferences or views don't conform to the rules and procedures that we've established here. A lot of thought went into this, a lot of back and forth, you know, between our physicians and our otherwise people on the committee, and this is the decision we came to, and we hope everybody will abide by it. And surely we're going to be flexible and change, you know, when conditions change. Hopefully it would all be changed for the better, and more open, but you never know what's going to happen. It's possible we'd have to retract and go backward, but we hope not. And we are now in the town hall meeting where you'll be able to ask your questions, and we're just hoping and praying that everybody will be able to all see each other soon again in the synagogue and enjoy the life that we used to know as a community. So I'm going to open the floor now for question and answer, and really, if you have a specific question for someone who presented, that's fine. If you just want to throw it out there to the committee, then anyone from the committee who's here can answer. So why don't we use either you raise your hand or you raise your little hand symbol that you can click on. I'll flip back and forth between the two screens to see who wants to speak. Or just open up your mic and say, hello, I'd like to speak. I know there are going to be questions out there.
You must be perfect. Wow.
Okay, see Bunny's hand up, so you have to unmute yourself.
I think it's great. I think you guys did a wonderful job. The thing I'm concerned about is if Rabbi has a mask on when she's doing services, it's really hard for someone who has a hearing problem to hear and to understand. The good thing about Zoom is that I really want to see everybody, but I'm really concerned about being able to hear you. Even with the things cranked up, it's hard when you're muted.
Those paper masks that are kind of flimsy, but it's another barrier. Singing supposedly is one of the things that throws out your, fluids from your mouth farther than anything else, singing and yelling. And so I am going to stand back as far as possible from the congregation. I am going to have a microphone. We're going to try to improve our sound system out there, maybe with some Bluetooth mics and amplifiers. But you're right, it may be an issue, and I may find it hard to sing with a mask on. And if those things happen, I may have to remove it and just
Thank you.
be as far away as possible.
And we are going through a trial period. It's we're doing a 3-week trial period with the services. And if things just don't work, if the rabbi's unable to sing, if we can't understand or hear her, obviously we're going to have to do something else.
Good point, Bunny. Thanks. Somebody else, Laura French. Why don't you speak up?
I was just wondering about face shields. Do they do anything with the aerosols?
Face shields are not protective for source control. They and other eye protection are helpful in the outbreak situation from acquiring the virus, but they're too open.
It's possible, though, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, that if Rabbi Feingold is having trouble singing with a mask, at least outside, because of vaccination, if we put up a shield and she's far enough away, that may be okay.
Yeah, that would be, the shield would be theoretical. The distance would be the important thing, and it's outside too, which does make a difference for that. And like I say, the vaccines just are working incredibly well. It's very gratifying.
So it's possible we'd move inside on a rainy night. So should we invest in some kind of a plastic shield thing for the Bima?
I think it's just, there's not much data there for it.
Okay.
I can go look and see if I can find something that hasn't, gotten widely into the literature to see if there's something.
Okay. Because we certainly could stand something up on the indoor turn, and I'm pretty far away from people, especially no one likes the front row.
Well, I
Make the first 5 rows, inaccessible. Ed.
She said Ed.
I was going to say the same thing. You could always, for indoor, just block out the front 2 rows at least the middle part of the row to, allow more distance between you and the members.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the airflow is for the sanctuary. And it's a fairly big space, but I don't even know. Do we still use radiators as the heating element there?
Yes.
Okay, radiators won't move the air around. We have the fans up there.
Yes.
And I don't know if we have any forced air besides the air conditioning.
We don't have any forced air, but the fans do blow pretty well. And we also have new windows that all open now. And we can open that
Yeah.
door to the fire escape. So with the doors and windows open, I would have to think we would be able to get some good airflow.
And with new windows, you're talking about the ones in the auditorium.
Yeah, when I say new, it's relatively new. Yes. The doors, windows.
Yeah.
It's open, the auditorium and the sanctuary.
It's been surprisingly hard to show a benefit from improving the airflow. But I'll take another look.
Bud,
Directed to Todd. Can the air conditioning distribution system be utilized without air conditioning, fan only?
I believe so. I know that's a good question. I believe it's able to blow just, unconditioned air. I don't believe it can heat. I do know it can cool. I'm just not sure whether it can blow unconditioned air.
Todd, do we happen to know what the air exchange per hour is of the air conditioning system? Do we have that number?
I don't, but I'm sure they're just a number of Hitachi wall-mounted systems. I'm sure that information is easily available.
It would apply. To get accurate number, it would have to be specifically applied to the setting. So it's sometimes a tough number to get. It's used a lot in hospital ventilation systems.
I can look into it, but I don't know.
Okay, it'd be nice to know.
anyone else? Question, comment? Again, Bud.
Another question is for all sanctuary activities, Todd, and I'm assuming the sanctuary is going to be completed, that the auditorium always is open during any sanctuary activities because you can spread people out back there.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest, Stephen, is that we utilize the space in the auditorium to spread people out so that, we could block off the first 10 or 15 rows of the sanctuary if you chose to, and just put people in the auditorium if you felt like that was a way for the rabbi to be able to sing comfortably. I think we have the space, and I think that, having all the windows and the doors open, hopefully it will create some air draft going through there, and with the fans on, it'll create some air exchange. But yeah, the sanctuary has just been put back together. Everything is, I think, close to done in the sanctuary. We're just working on the final piece, which is the AV system. So now that the auditorium is cleaned out for the most part of all the sanctuary's belongings, we can start to work on maybe spacing some chairs out in the auditorium to allow for indoor services that are adequately spaced.
I think we can cordon off chairs and the fixed seating too. To say these aren't available, but these are. Anything else?
Yeah, I had a question. Thank you to the committee for all that you've done. It's I don't envy you in the least with the decisions that you've had to make. Regarding the capacity for services, and we should be so lucky to have to turn people away, but what happens like if somebody doesn't register and just shows up at services and we're at capacity? How would we nicely and gracefully, let them know?
Someone from the committee want to handle that? We've talked about it. We've talked about having extra pods set up outside we would know by reservation who was coming, and we would set up just exactly that many seats and 6 feet apart, pods 6 feet apart. And then we would set up a few extra pods because we don't want anyone to come and we'll have to say, sorry, you can't come to services. We don't anticipate it'll happen a lot, but it could happen to someone just checking us out. You know, they've never been to Beth Hillel Temple and they come to check us out. Sometimes happens, and we don't want to send the message, sorry, you can't come. So, you know, if it got to be a lot of people doing that and, you know, is really becoming an issue, we might have to relook at it. But I think that's what we've decided on for now.
We
Okay.
also talked about offering people a reservation for a future service.
Thank you. Yes, the reservation process, which Philip is in the process of setting up, and he is borrowing the system from another synagogue that's been doing this for a long time already. It will, first of all, enable us to capture who all is there, and we will keep track of that in case, God forbid, there's an infection with someone who is there. Then we can contact trace and let everybody who was there that night know that they were near a person who has COVID. But also so that if there are people call, you know, at before the deadline, but we're already at our 20 people, or maybe later in the summer, 35 people, or we should be so lucky, 50 people are already coming, and they're 51, we would keep track of that person's name and say, what other night would you like to come? You're first on the list.
And we would still be offering services online, and whether we're outside or inside, in addition, correct?
Yeah, we'll be streaming. I don't think we'll be doing Zoom, but we'll be streaming.
Right, they'll be streaming. Okay, so people will have another way to be able to. Okay, great, thank you.
So I have a couple of questions. One, and I talked to Philip about this today. I can think of a couple of people who don't use computers, who we probably need to work out a different system so they don't feel left out. So I think that's being addressed. I was glad to hear that.
That's on his to-do list for the week of the 25th, or whenever the reservation process starts. I don't know if he has a complete list, but I know he knows of some people that he will call
Right.
and say,
Yeah.
what's happening? Would you like to sign up for a night or two?
Yeah, he and I talked about that. And the question I have is, so if the Mahjong group, the Great Decisions group, that, you know, the things that I know I'm involved in that might want to return to the temple, do we need to go through somebody to get approval to do it, or do we just show up? Is there a process for vetting us?
Well, we've already said Mahjong is okay as long as you're all, you know, vaccinated, because that is pretty close contact. It's really hard to social distance with Mahjong. So you'd need to all be vaccinated. With Great Decisions, I don't know if you're all vaccinated, but the room you usually sit in, you're in pretty close contact too. So if you think there's someone who isn't vaccinated, it'll be impossible to social distance in there.
Right. And I was asking more from, if we know everybody's vaccinated, do we still need to get approval from somebody to use the building, to come into the building?
Anyone have an opinion on that from the committee?
Could you repeat that again?
I'm curious, so if the Mahjong group decides next Tuesday we're going to show up, do we just show up? Or do we need
We need
to?
to put it on the temple.
I'm not sure. Would that be under the reservation system as an
I
activity?
think only large events is what we've been talked about.
Okay.
Where there'll be a
This also brings up how we're going to inform the congregation about asking them to make a decision about participating based on vaccination status. How do we tell everybody? I don't think we covered that adequately in our.
I'm not sure what you mean, but let me come back to that. Esther,
Okay.
one of the reasons you would have to let people, let us know ahead of time is
Yeah.
that room is not ready for prime time yet. So
Yeah,
it has to be cleared out, it has to be cleaned.
Right.
So from that standpoint alone, it needs to get back on the temple calendar.
Okay.
But once it's, you know, on the temple calendar, I don't think you have to ask every week, can we have Mahjong this week?
Okay.
I think you'll know. Steve, could you repeat? I didn't quite understand what you were saying.
Yeah, we're saying, we're asking our, everybody who's participating to let us know, if they want to participate, to let us know their vaccination status.
Oh, we are.
Or not let us know, but we need to tell them that if they're not vaccinated, there should be different rules.
So, Steve, that's on the document that we just
Okay.
went through, and it was
Okay.
sent out to the entire membership today, and it's on
Okay.
the website, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean people have all read it, right?
Yeah.
For example,
Yeah.
when people come to services, there are
Mhm.
going to be ushers there, and the ritual committee, the COVID committee, and the leadership council, we're going to ask to kind of be in a rotation, a sign-up sheet to be that usher person who reminds people when they come in. If you're
Okay.
vaccinated, you don't need a mask. If you're
Okay.
not vaccinated or you're immunocompromised, you need to wear a mask. One person in the bathroom at a time. Please sing quietly. There'll be a checkoff for who made a reservation, and then a list of things that they say.
Great. Maybe we should put something on the homepage.
Yeah, there is something on the homepage.
Okay, fine. I skip right down to the DeVar, so I didn't notice.
On the left side of the homepage of the website, there's a sidebar, and the first thing is a little COVID face with a mask on,
Okay.
and
All
it's
right.
June 1 COVID committee report. Kathy?
My ADD strikes.
Was any and all of this going to apply to children that are not vaccinated?
They have to wear a mask, whether they come to services or to tutoring or to school in the fall. Anyone who's not vaccinated, child or adult, or who is immunocompromised, needs to wear a mask. And we're not gonna say, hey, are you vaccinated? We're just gonna do it on the honor system. What else?
I'd just be curious to hear how many people are thinking that they will come to services in person at this point,
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
given that the new guidelines are out.
Looks like most.
I'm good.
Great.
Yeah, because we assume some people still won't want to come, and they'll want to be watching from home. Was that a question, Ben? Did you have your hand up?
No, I was just saying I'd be somebody to come to services, and I have been asked to sing quietly anyway, so that's not an issue for me. I learned during COVID who the guy singing not so good was.
Good questions, guys. Anything else? Connie?
So once we start back with services, did you say that they'll only be streamed on Facebook and not on Zoom?
I think initially at first it could be very hard to do that in the yard.
Okay.
I haven't quite wrapped my brain around leading services, doing Zoom. Maybe it can be done, but I don't know. But certainly outside, there's so many other elements out there, wind and noise from Sheridan Road, and
Good point. Yeah. Okay.
It'll be a developing thing. We can't have everything all at once. And if you remember in the early days of COVID, we were just sort of stumbling around, learning how to use Zoom. I think once we go back to in-person and try to be hybrid, there'll be some of that stumbling around until we get it right, and ultimately until we get our new AV equipment in the sanctuary and have something a little more permanent and professional. So we hope people will bear with us and cut us off.
I know you had mentioned about the high holidays. Do we have any idea what the capacity would be, or is it too soon to make that determination?
Committee folks, I don't think we've gone there yet. Am I right? We've sort of.
I think it's too soon. With
Okay, sure.
luck, we'll be able to open it fully. That's not out of the range of possibility.
Okay, great.
But it's
That is
possible
this,
that there could be a limit and people would not be able to go to every single service in person. If ideally that's what they would want to do, it may not be possible. A lot of our services never, on the high holidays, some of them never reach more than 75 people, 50, 75 people. But of course, the big ones, Rosh Hashanah morning, Rosh Hashanah evening, Yom Kippur morning, Yom Kippur evening, those would be the ones that we want to figure out, you know, how many people can we get in there safely, and what about the ones who can't be there? It will
I
be.
think
There
that's
will,
part of the unknown is that we don't know how many people we can get in the space safely, and until we know how we can use the space and what the capacity is, it's hard to answer. Even if we were able to increase capacity, it's hard to know how many people we could put in there until we really have a few tries at it.
and that is the same for the life cycle events, of which there are 2 scheduled in October. So following the high holidays, which will be sort of a helpful indication of what can fit in there.
mm-hmm. Any other thoughts about the high holidays or anything else? And of course, we're going to leave it up to Orit whether she feels comfortable coming here or not. I think the way Todd read it was she's coming. We'd like her to come and be here in person if she feels that she can make the trip comfortably.
Steve, you alluded to Israel, and I was wondering if you would share a little more about what's happening recently there. I know that they have been sort of at the front of the line when it comes to vaccinations, and people are looking at them for how things are going for the future. Can you speak on that?
I really haven't looked in the last few weeks. What has, you know, it looks like they may have achieved a herd immunity. But I really haven't looked recently. I've been following as far as Israel is concerned, I've been following the politics recently, but not the COVID.
I thought you were going to ask Steve to speak about that.
Steve, do you know what ages have been vaccinated elsewhere outside of the US? Down to what age, I should say?
I think some places have gone to 8 to 10. But right now it's 12 and up here. Moderna and Pfizer are doing data for younger kids. Also, Moderna and Pfizer have submitted applications for full FDA approval. I thought it took a year of data. It takes 6 months of data. So probably by fall, hopefully even in the next month or two, there will be full FDA approval for these vaccines, which will continue to be widely available. That will affect a lot of things about vaccination, including employer mandates.
Anything else?
Just one thing. As far as the high holidays are concerned, one of the things will be how things go this summer. This is an ongoing process, and this is an intermediate step, and we will learn a lot about this, and that will definitely inform what we do about, you know, the high holidays.
I have one more question. I'm curious whether or not we know whether or not the touching of surfaces spreads. I'm thinking about prayer books. You know, if we're sharing prayer books, how that will work.
It can happen. It's basically quite rare. You know, the way COVID is spread is people breathing and people coughing into their hand and then touching other people, or, you know, things like that. There have been some fairly well documented instances of transmission via inanimate surfaces. I don't know of any from books.
So we had planned to allow people to take a prayer book from the table, go to their pod, sit with their prayer book, put it back on the table because it's not going to be used again for another week.
Mm.
And we thought that was perfectly safe.
Yeah, that's fine.
And also, you know, we're going to use the plastic chairs that we have, and a person is going to touch them and set them out into place earlier on Friday. But if people are uncomfortable with that, they certainly could bring their own chair.
So can you explain to me the food issue? If it's not on a surface, why can't we share food?
Because when we have an oneg, it's at a table and people line up and they're all next to each other.
Oh.
And they breathe on the food.
Yeah,
Breathe on each other.
on each other is the real issue.
And you sit down at the table
Mhm.
and you're across from someone.
And you're eating, which means you're not wearing a mask while you're eating.
Mm.
Yeah, there was one study looking at people presenting with COVID, and there was the risk factor was like doubled for people who had been to a restaurant within the past week or so prior to. This is no surprise.
So, I mean, when we're talking about that, we're not distinguishing between vaccinated and unvaccinated. I think if people are vaccinated, it would be much safer and probably safe, period, to be able to be eating indoors. So we haven't taken that step to address that, but I think that is gonna be cleared.
That was in the graphic, where the CDC has addressed.
Right. We didn't talk about it at our temple, though, how we would do that.
What we did talk about.
The committee's made a decision. This is where we're at now.
Yeah.
Right.
Having food
Right.
for now doesn't mean forever.
Right.
So the Mahjong group that is all vaccinated, we still could not bring.
For now.
Yeah.
For now. We really haven't had that full discussion yet. And we do have another meeting after our first service outside. We have another meeting planned, and we have more things to take up about, you know, how are we doing the high holidays in school, and will there be food, and, you know, so this is how far we've gotten to this point, and we haven't said yes to food yet.
Right.
And most of my colleagues, there was a whole chain on WhatsApp this week, rabbis from the greater Milwaukee, southeastern Wisconsin area on this very question. And there was one congregation that says they're serving food, and none of the rest are having any food, unless it's like a bring your own, you know, sit in your.
That's what I was just going to ask. Is the Mahjong group, if they wanted to bring their own food to snack on without sharing?
And they're all vaccinated. It's 10 people, or how many people? I don't know.
Maybe
Outside at a picnic. I mean, we have, so far we've said no food served in the building.
Yeah, I think we need to try it, see how it works before we start tinkering.
You know, we
Fair enough.
We
Fair
did
enough.
For a study, people brought their own food. They sat in their own chairs and ate. They didn't share food. Although Ben showed us his food. He showed us all his Blintz casserole. But
It was the one from the class. Everybody wanted to see it from the class.
and I am planning to allow Popsicle Shabbat to happen again on July 2nd. All the family Shabbats in the summer are Popsicle Shabbat, where the kids can grab a popsicle, sit in their pod with their mom or dad, and have a popsicle during services. And I have had an occasional adult take a popsicle. I wouldn't slap.
And I'd like to emphasize that just about everything that we've got planned has social distancing built in. So that's a major thing.
These are good questions, and they're hard questions.
When you're talking about the prayer books, I don't know if you want to put out there. I have actually Mishkan Tefillah. I downloaded it. I got it on Kindle, so I have it on my phone. So if people were okay with doing that, maybe if you wanted to message that somehow, that it would be okay if like someone had their phone if it was during services, but they were using it for their prayer book.
You prefer not to take a prayer book.
I cringe at the idea of people looking at their phones during a service.
I don't disagree, but I do know that that is one thing. I've even used it for Torah reading. If I don't have a Chumash in front of me, is I'll pull it up. I saw Cantor once use all her music was on her iPad. But I agree with you about the screen.
Yeah. By the way, iPhones and iPads can be cleaned with Clorox wipes, and the web, the web page about it specifically says Clorox wipes. It was a product placement, but I've looked at that from other things. So yeah, you can disinfect the phone and an iPad safely.
Just FYI, I don't have any problem with people looking at a prayer book on a device. We've been doing that all year.
Yeah, I know. So,
Looking at a prayer book on a device. People stop bringing their prayer books to the Zoom because they like to look at it on the device.
in my travels, I've been to some services where they project
Yes.
the page for the congregation.
Be able to do that.
I like that a lot.
Speaking of disinfecting devices, what about like those UV things like the phone soap and other products like that use like a UV light you put in a little container? I have one at home. Can those be effective too?
They can be, but it's very complicated. There's a lot of devices. There's a lot of use cases. And so I can't tell if you can use that UV for disinfecting a device or not.
It also takes like 10 minutes of exposure for it to work. And you see people doing it in these places and I see them go boom, boom. And
yeah, no, mine does either 18 minutes or 30 minutes. So it's a long concentration.
It's part of infection control in hospitals these days, but they've got this kind of roboticized device that they wheel into the room, keep people out because it's UV, it can infect the eyes, and it has to be in there for 15, 30, 40 minutes. But that's one end of the use cases. There's also devices, UV devices to purify water when you're traveling. Like I say, there's a wide variety and it gets complicated very quickly.
Yes, it can affect the eyes and the skin.
Yes, that's right.
We actually looked into the UVC, the fans for the sanctuary. When we replaced the fans, we actually looked at doing something similar to that. And after looking into some of the health issues with it, we determined that it wasn't a benefit to us, that the sanctuary would have to be empty when it's running. And like Platina said, the threats to the eyes and the skin just didn't outweigh the benefits of the infection killing properties.
Yeah, there are lower level devices that are used where the light goes upwards and is used as part of a suite of interventions to help prevent transmission of tuberculosis. But that's an entirely different use case than the temple.
Any other questions? Well, if not, we really want to thank our committee members again for all their hard work and the work they will continue to do throughout the summer and until, I guess, whenever this pandemic is under control enough that we don't have to worry about these things. So I hope to see you all in person soon at the temple. I am back working at the temple most days, and or in the backyard for services or at some other event. And please tell other people who weren't here tonight that they can watch this at the temple website at our YouTube channel. It will be posted there tomorrow. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.